Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Addeo, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actual advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. All right, guys, we are back with friend of the show and friend of me personally. We are back with Emily Foster. Emily, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast again. I'm so excited to be here.
It's always nice to have not only your friendly face, but Emily's got a friendly shelf of rainbow colored books that are looking at me, and I love looking at them. So is that the A Court of Mist and Fury up top?
It is, yeah. So it starts with that because I read the first one, so it's like on the other side, and then I'm on the second one in ACOTAR right now.
Very nice. Yeah, I think I skipped a book. That's not how I was referring to it, but it's the Sarah J. Maas books.
Yes, yeah, I'm deep into that, and then like the Fourth Wing series, so kind of reliving romantasy books right now.
I love it. I love it. So we're recording this at the start of the year, January 7th. By the time it goes up, we may be closer to Valentine's Day or February, but we're still gonna be within engagement season. So that's what we want to be talking about this episode. But before we start, for those who haven't heard your previous episodes, can you introduce yourself and share a bit about Emily Foster Creative?
Yeah, I'm Emily Foster. I own Emily Foster Creative, which is a branding and website design studio. We do everything from branding and web design to marketing services like blogging, and we've partnered with Nina now to do social media management. So a lot of our branding and website clients continue in some kind of capacity, whether it's through like design assets or social media or blogging for their business. And my focus really is helping my clients create a custom brand that's very strategic and helps them to attract exactly the types of clients that they're looking for. So everything is done based on research and ideal clients and building a brand that's going to last a long time versus following like pretty trends.
Beautiful, because I always want to follow the pretty trends, but I think we know, and
Yeah.
also pretty trends change. So
Yeah, that's the exact reason why I don't focus on brands that are following trends. And there are designers out there who do really beautiful brands. And I would say if I did have any kind of aesthetic style, it's like more classic. But we design in all kinds of aesthetics for clients because I think that putting any wedding pro in a box doesn't work. And just like following a trend, it's going to kind of end up dying eventually after a year or two, and you're going to find yourself back at the drawing board trying to create a custom brand.
can you talk about the importance of having fresh, updated content on your homepage during this time?
Yeah, so when you think about the wedding vendor booking process, couples are typically not just looking at one option, even if they have a really solid word of mouth referral for a vendor. Like, let's say that their planner refers you as a photographer, and then maybe their planner also referred two or three others, and they found a couple that they like on Instagram. There's usually a lot of competition, especially during this time of the year. When you think about engagement season, or booking season, a lot of couples are in that kind of like have to book phase where they maybe just got engaged, or maybe they're like starting year two of their engagement and getting married this year, and they have that checklist of people that they have to book. So they're not necessarily dedicated to booking you yet. They're looking at multiple vendors, they have multiple tabs open, and that means that your website really has to stand out from the rest. So it needs to have more modern, updated work that showcases the best of what you can do. It needs to speak exactly to the type of client that you work with so that you can, number one, attract those couples who have your tab open, but also detract couples that you don't want to work with so that you're not wasting your valuable time during this busy season taking calls with people who aren't a good fit, or like worst case booking a couple that ends up not being a good fit. So number one is that fresh content and being able to like show up as a modern vendor in comparison to everyone else. But then also like making sure that you're not leaving money on the table with what you can charge for the value that you offer to your clients. So making sure that everything looks really high end and showcases the amazing experience that you can give to your clients so that you can actually charge the prices that you deserve to charge. I don't like to say charging what you're worth, but charging the value that you give to your clients because your worth is like exponential. But I do think that you should raise your prices during this time to the caliber of the clients that you want to attract and to the caliber of the competitors that you want to be considered against too. Like kind of back to the tabs analogy. If people are comparing you to other similar vendors and your prices are a lot lower, but your website is poorly designed, then it's going to be hard to raise your prices to that caliber and show up as a competitor of those other options that they're looking at.
Lots to unpack all within that. But one thing that I think comes up, especially a lot as we're in a new year period, is updating portfolios and galleries and even the service page and pricing, like you mentioned. So, how often should wedding professionals be updating their portfolio, galleries, or services?
I would say twice a year is a pretty good amount. If you have a system and you're at the point in your business where you can outsource, then I would say quarterly or even monthly is great. Like, let's say that you have a VA or you have like a website designer on retainer, then it could be a good idea to update that frequently. Some of our clients blog monthly and they work with us for that. So that's technically updating their site. They're sharing updated albums and updated wedding locations and kind of like bios about what the wedding was like. So that's a good time to update if you do want to do it on a really frequent basis. But if that sounds really overwhelming, like maybe you don't have the budget for a blogging team or a web design team or anything like that, then twice a year is a good rule of thumb. So once right around this time that we're talking about, I think this might go out in like late January or February. So once before then, ideally, if you could do it like in December or January, but if you don't get to it until February, early March, that's totally okay too. It's not like it's like an expiration date where like February 14th hits and then engagement season is just flat over. Like there's still going to be people getting engaged, and there's going to be people who got engaged on February 14th or before that are now looking for vendors. So generally, the end of Q4 or Q1 is that good first time. And then again during your slow season, whenever it is in the year. So some vendors might find like about March or April, they get really, really busy again. And then they kind of have a lull in the middle of the year, like July or August, especially in those like really hot, humid climates. That's a good time to take all of the weddings that you've done already and update your portfolio and your other info on your site with that and maybe even raise your prices. Like there's no rule that says that you have to wait until the end of the year to raise your prices. But for other vendors who are more in kind of like those four season areas, like here in the Pacific Northwest, I would say our July and August months are still really busy. So they might need to wait until like end of October or November to kind of start working on those updates again.
You mentioned, how this can sound overwhelming to somebody. Maybe they're doing it all on their own. So, someone with limited time or capacity, what would you say is the most impactful update they can make to their website or thing to check on their website?
Yeah, I would say focus on the homepage first because I want you to think of that like as your sales page. That's where the best of your work should be. It shouldn't be hidden away in a gallery that they have to click through like two or three times. But make sure that the best of your work is on the homepage and that your homepage speaks to who you are, where you're located, and what you provide in terms of value for your clients. So you wouldn't believe how many wedding pros just don't have their location on their homepage, but it's as simple as adding something like wedding planner in Los Angeles to the top little H1 headline on your page to make sure that that's covered. Make sure that it's clear who they're going to be working with. So if it's just you, don't be afraid to show your face. If you have a small team or a large team, make sure that you're putting them just subtly on the homepage. The about page will kind of extend that more and then the value that you provide. So I always recommend starting with a tagline near the top about what it is, like the end result or the end win that you're giving your client and doing that. And so that's kind of like three main things to focus on the homepage. You don't have to make sure everything's perfect if you're super busy. And then the other main two things that I would focus on is making sure that it's really easy for people to get to your contact page. So make sure that you have something like a contact button in the top navigation, a button on that first section of your homepage, and then maybe one or two further down on the page. And then also update your contact page and make sure that your contact form is short and sweet, that it gives you the information that you need, but that it's easy and quick for your clients to fill out. So I would start with those three things if you can't get to anything else. And I can also give you a checklist. I have a 20-point plus checklist that I can provide you if people want to dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, I can put a link to that in the show notes or directions of where to get it because that would be, I'm sure, a huge help. Are there, speaking of the inquiry forms and the buttons, are there specific calls to action that perform best, particularly during this competitive time of year?
I think it really depends on your brand because if you're trying to build more of a refined luxury brand, it doesn't always make sense to use like as urgent and quick sales kind of language, like thinking of like buy now or get in touch now, like doesn't always sound as luxurious as what you might need. So coming back to who you're speaking to is really important for that. I would say making it really clear what you want them to do next on the contact page. So if they are booking a call, you could say something like book a consultation or reserve a call with us, something like that, so that they know what to expect next in the process. And this wasn't exactly what you asked, but like in addition to how you word the button, making sure that it's clear somewhere on your contact page like above the contact form or after they submit the form, just make sure that it's clear what will happen next so that they know when to expect a reply from you. If they can't book a call right there on your website and they have to fill out a form first to say something like, thank you, we'll be in touch within 24 to 48 hours and we'll reach out with a call link or something like that. So that way, if they are looking at a lot of options, they know exactly what they're getting from you next and they kind of have that checklist of what to do next.
Is there a certain amount of calls to action or buttons to the contact form that should be on a single homepage or page of a website?
A certain amount of call to
Yeah,
action.
like is having
Yeah.
just one contact us button at the top enough, or should it be reoccurring throughout the scroll of the website?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the length of your page ultimately. As a rule of thumb for most of my clients, I like to have two on each page. It's not a hard and set rule, so you would even look at some of my client sites and see something a little bit different. But especially on the homepage, I like to have one near the top somewhere and then one near the bottom too, if there's not one in the footer at least, because people as they scroll are going to kind of decide at different points when they want to inquire. So having another reminder near the end so that they don't have to scroll all the way up to the top or like click the little return to top button is really helpful. And I always say like a general rule of thumb is to have at least like 4 to 5 call to actions on each page and not just to the contact page. So I just said like two to the contact page, but also linking to other pages on your website, like your blog or your FAQs or your about page. It doesn't usually hurt to have one call to action in every single scroll on your website. So every different section on your website would have a different button.
Nice. That's a good, easy way of looking at it, like every scroll.
Yeah.
Right now, during engagement season, especially in certain areas, I'm in a very high volume area for the wedding industry. So when I speak with wedding professionals locally, they're very focused on competitors, especially during engagement season. So how can wedding professionals ensure their website stands out from competitors?
Yeah. So I think going back to that value that you offer your clients and really getting very niche with it. So if you're a wedding planner, the value that you offer isn't just a stress-free experience and taking care of all of the details. If you're a wedding venue, the value isn't just offering a beautiful space that's a blank slate and customizable, but it's getting even more specific about that. So thinking about the end results that you give them. So for a wedding planner, what might be able to set you apart from competitors is that you do extra venue research or something like that. And maybe your competitors don't go as deep into venues, but you help them book their venue and you actually go on tours with them to their venue. That would be something that you might want to include in the wording of the results that you're giving them. And then also speaking to the emotion and the feeling, because there are going to be a lot of competitors in your industry that are just kind of like listing every single thing that they do in bullet points. But speaking to the feeling that you give your clients at the end of the process of working together. So the relief, the joy, the memories, like other things that you are expecting for them to get at the end of the process. And speaking to like more of those emotional triggers that they might have will help you stand out. Another thing is making it really easy to contact you. So having your phone number or your email be really easy and clickable on your website. And then not being afraid to build a branding design suite that stands out from other wedding pros. So I think it's really easy to feel like you have to blend in with other wedding vendors. And like if all of your competitors in the area are using like black and white modern branding, then you feel like you have to be on par with that. But really, if you can find some way that speaks to your brand story and helps you stand out, like maybe having a black and white and red brand or incorporating a couple like neon colors in a very like attractive and tasteful way, then that can be another way to set you apart from everyone. And it will take time, especially with that last tip, the branding design tips, but making sure that you're implementing it now and being consistent and showing up is a really good way to stand out. And beyond that, like with websites and brands, making sure that you also follow up with a really solid sales process and having FAQs on your website is a really good start, something that you can do on your website, but then making sure that you're giving the care to each client that maybe your competitors aren't giving them when they inquire.
You mentioned the branding. How can a wedding professional who's hearing this, what should they think about when they're considering maybe it is time for a branding refresh?
Yeah. So, what they should think about is if it's the right time in their business. I'm not going to sit here ever and say that anyone should rebrand and it will solve all of their problems. But if there's some kind of disconnect, like you are attracting plenty of clients, but they're not high paying enough, or you're attracting plenty of clients, but they're not necessarily the right type of clients, like they don't feel like the right vibe or fit with you, then that's a sign that you probably have a branding problem. Another sign too is if you have really great services, you know that you can provide a lot to your clients, but you're not getting a lot of traffic to your website and you're not being recognized. That could actually be a sign that you might need a rebrand or that you need to work on your website design and your SEO combined because both of those kind of go hand in hand for attracting clients. So decide if it's the right time. Decide what kind of clients you want to work with. So, kind of try to do a little bit of research before you reach out and think about who are your most ideal clients, who have you enjoyed working with over the last couple of years, and who have you not enjoyed working with, because that can be really valuable information that you can bring into the brand strategy process with a designer. And then think about if it is the best use of your time and money at this point. So, thinking about those first 2 points and thinking like if you have a sales problem and you're simply just not attracting enough clients right now and you need clients tomorrow, then a brand and website isn't going to solve your problem today. So, you might need to instead funnel more money into like paid advertising or into networking events or something that you can do that is going to attract people's attention really quickly, but it takes weeks and months to build a website and brand and do it in a really quality way. So make sure that you're kind of considering that timeline and that you have that time. So if you are looking to like launch a new brand in, let's say, late spring, early summer, then this is the time frame that you would want to start thinking about building that. Or if you're okay with waiting until fall, kind of think about starting that process in like late winter, early spring, so that you can think ahead for giving that time and momentum.
Fantastic. I like how you then gave the answer of like if they need leads immediately today, because I could just hear in my head people going, yes, yes, how do I do that? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, like we know nothing happens overnight. Like I was going to say, invest in social media management, but that's also not the
mhm.
correct way to get clients like tomorrow. I don't know if there is like a magic get clients tomorrow other than like trying to tap into your referral network. But definitely with branding, I would say that's the long game. It's really setting your business up for success so that you can then do those other things in your business more easily.
It would be a really fun challenge if, like, we had four different wedding service providers in different niches. Like, we would have, you for the website and branding, maybe somebody for ads, me for organic, and saw who could get not just a lead, but a lead and conversion for our client first. Like, if we were having to do, like, something where it's like how fast could it be done, and see what happened, and put the strategies to the test. But even I think both of us, our money would be on the paid ads.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, yeah, there'd be so many different factors,
Yeah.
like
Well,
who
because
could
the
get the
paid
highest
ad,
paid
yeah,
client.
could get the
Yeah,
lead, but are they going to get the conversion? Because they can get
exactly.
leads really quickly, but it's still it's kind of like slow and steady wins the race. So for if this is
Right,
the tortoise and the hare, website is the tortoise and the hare is the ads, but they're going to get to the same destination probably at the same time. 'Cause
right.
if you rush the ads, you won't be targeting the right audience. I've learned enough from wedding industry ads to know all the great back end work they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, like as we know, it's this spider web of everything depends on the other services. And yeah, I'd actually probably bet money that you would get a client the slowest from branding and web design. And I'm like totally confident and comfortable saying that because
Mhm.
nowhere on my website will you see that I promise like quick leads
Yeah,
or like high conversions right away. Like any good brand and website designer will tell you it's a long game. You have to build trust and like build that brand presence, which is like why we also don't just like put up a landing page on a website, in a few hours and call it good. Like it takes time to build that.
yeah. Because the goal, even with organic social, is to eventually get your leads on autopilot, but that
Mhm.
takes time and
Yeah.
strategy and investment and content and so forth. Are there tools that wedding pros can use to track website performance during engagement season, or does that have to be set up already with whomever they were working on their website?
Yeah, so I recommend as soon as you launch your website, setting up Google Analytics. It's something that we do for all of our clients, but you don't have to do it with a website designer. It just takes a couple of steps, but it's easy for everyone to figure out on their own. So you go to analytics.google.com to set up Google Analytics, and that will walk you through a few steps that you have to fill out for your business. And then it will give you a little code that you have to then put into your website platform. So whether you're using Showit, Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, like that's going to change where you put that code, but there's some pretty easy articles online that will tell you where to put it. And then from there, it does take about 48 hours usually to get Google Analytics to start syncing with your website. That's why you should do it today as soon as you hear this podcast, and then you can start seeing that traffic come in. The one thing that I always tell people though, is that your Google Analytics or any website analytics are kind of like the stock market. So you're not going to get really helpful information by looking at it any one point in time, like over one day or one week. Otherwise, it's going to make you either really pessimistic or really optimistic about your website results. And we don't really want either because let's say that you're featured in a publication and you get a bunch of hits to your website one week. That's kind of a skewed version of what your traffic actually looks like. Or if you're in a slow season and there's just not as many people in your market searching for your type of service right at that point, then you're probably going to see lower traffic. So set it up today, but then expect it to take about like 6 to 9 to even 12 months to really start seeing a pattern of what your traffic looks like. And then by next engagement season, you'll kind of be able to see like the highs and lows of when you get traffic. And we could probably have an entirely separate podcast about everything that you should be doing to build up that traffic over that 6 to 12 month period. But that's what you should do there. And then I would also recommend connecting Google Search Console. So if you just type that into your browser, you'll be able to go to the website and also walk through the steps to set that up. It's kind of like Google Analytics, but instead of showing you all your website traffic, it's just showing you traffic that's coming directly through Google organic search. So that's really helpful to start seeing what kind of SEO keywords you're ranking for. And you can go and submit your sitemap there, which is like the map of your site that formally tells Google like what pages it should crawl so that people can start finding those pages in their search results.
I hope people had a notepad out for
Yeah.
it.
Play this at like 0.5 speed.
Yeah, yeah. So I know for me, when it's social media, the most important analytic for me that I tell wedding professionals to look at is are their website clicks or people going from
Yeah.
Instagram to the website. So when people are looking at their website analytics, what is the most important thing for them to be looking at?
Yeah. I think the most important is kind of the reverse side of what you just said, but going into your acquisition tab in Google Analytics and seeing your search, your source medium. So this is like the places that traffic is coming from, and it will give you a breakdown of everywhere where your traffic's coming from Instagram to Facebook and TikTok. And referrals from other sites. So if you have any listings on list sites like the Knot and Wedding Wire, it'll tell you that. If you have like referrals coming from blogs that you share with other vendors or credit on different sites, it'll kind of tell you where all of that traffic's coming from. And it's not the most like exciting analytic to look at first because it's a lot of information to digest, but it's a really helpful one to determine your strategy for how you're going to invest your time and money moving forward and figuring out what is worth it. So, for example, if you see that your number one lead source is Instagram, then maybe consider investing even more money with your social media manager or doing what you can to up your engagement there and continue getting more clicks to your website. If your Google search traffic is really low, like your organic traffic, and people aren't finding you through Google, then you might need to take a look at what needs to be done on the back end of your site to better your on page SEO and start getting that stat up.
What's so important about that is I think it's something people overlook a lot. So when you are paying to advertise on, let's say, the Knot, and maybe you don't get leads from the Knot form, you may be going, oh, well, this isn't working. But then when you look at your referral traffic, you may see the Knot being a high lead source for bringing people to your website. So it's a big
Right.
piece of the puzzle to consider when going over your large scope marketing plan.
Definitely.
So, what would you say, as we kind of wrap things up, would be your biggest piece of advice for wedding professionals who want their websites to work harder for them during engagement season?
I would say do an audit of your Google Analytics traffic and either invest with a professional or if you know how, do an SEO audit to see if everything is set up well on the back end there. Um, I think actually, I kind of want to correct that. I think that's a really
Oh.
important thing to do now just for the future, but it's not going to get you immediate results because, like we kind of talked about before, SEO is a long game. So I think instead focusing on taking an audit of your homepage, like we talked about earlier, and making sure that everything is converting and clicking through properly on your homepage, that you have your most updated work there, even if you don't have the time to update every single gallery on your galleries or portfolio page. Really take a good, strong audit of that homepage, including updating with keywords like wedding planner in Los Angeles or wedding photographer in New York and things like that, so that you can start setting your website up for that long-term SEO success, but make sure that the conversions are going to be able to come through for the next few months.
So, it would be a lot easier to just hire you and
Yeah,
have you do it.
yeah, or hire someone and reach out soon because it does get to be a busy season around this time when people are all wanting to work on their website in the new year.
But what are the different ways that people can work with you and how can they find you?
Yeah, so everything from kind of a low level feedback kind of tier, we do audits and reviews. So if you want to sit down and have someone look at your website for an hour and basically do a coaching call, I offer website and branding audits. And then I also offer more in-depth SEO audits to give you a look at what's working on the back end for SEO. And then all the way up to fully custom branding and web design and copywriting and marketing strategies. So we have tailored packages everywhere in between. We do template customizations for our wedding pros who need something done a little bit quicker but do need a full website design. We also do branding design for wedding pros, and then we do a combination of those services all the way up to taking care of everything for you. What I call it hitting the easy button. And that's our all-inclusive experience where we handle every step of the process for you, collaborating with you along the way, and making sure that everything's considered. But you can find me at emilyfostercreative.com, and my Instagram and Pinterest are Emily Foster Creative. If you want to shoot me an email, you can send it to hello@emilyfostercreative.com. And I'm excited to probably see you on Instagram.
Yes, everybody, please say hello to Emily on Instagram. Let her know that you heard her on the podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing or leaving a review. They say the reviews are the most impactful way a podcast can grow. So if you've gotten anything from the 100 plus episodes of free value we've given to you guys here, a review would mean so much to me. That is the paid ads equivalent of quick traffic for podcasts. They say it's all in the reviews. So that's what we will ask you for today. And thank you guys so much for listening. And thank you, Emily, for being here.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.